Yeah, I mean, our philosophy is fuck it, and if Jordan Reed is going undrafted, that is the definition of fuck it.
You're listening to Let's Talk Fantasy Football, where men of fantasy genius have realized, hey guys, we don't need real football skills to dominate on the fantasy field. Yeah! So slap on your pads and grab your helmet. Shit's about to get real.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to another edition of Let's Talk Fantasy Football. I am your host, Nick Schreck, coming to you live here with the one, the only, Vinny Gonzalez. Vinny, welcome back. Part 2, NFC East. Here we fucking go.
Yeah, man. Let's ride again.
We are rocking and we are rolling. We're going right into it, guys. Another quick reminder, to actually, if you haven't listened to Part 1 of the NFC East, flip back, click in and give it a listen. Spotify, Anchor, you name it, we are there. In addition, guys, all ADPs we throw out there to you come courtesy of Fantasy Football Calculator. They're coming from 12-team PPR leagues, and we'll give you our best guesstimates as sometimes they move around by the time you're listening to the episode and what we're seeing here as we record in the studio. But without further ado, Vin, let's jump right into it, and let's kick it off with the Washington Redskins, also known as a shit show from the fantasy football world.
Yeah, this is a fucking mess, man. It's going to be tough to kind of get any kind of fantasy relevancy out of this team as of right now, just because they're kind of in the same situation, actually worse than the Giants. They're just like all out of sorts at quarterback, wide receiver, running back. It's really all up in the air, and I don't really think any of these guys are going to go out and grab. Like, you need this guy. This is a league winner, but these guys could present value as late-round picks, padding your bench, whatnot, grabs like that. So we'll try to delve into it as best we can. But again, it's super early. They have a lot of moving parts. It's so nuts. Like, they have a rookie quarterback. They took in Case Keenum. They have Colt McCoy, who's been there forever, knows the system. Alex Smith is trying to come back. There's so much going on. Darius Geis is coming back from injury. Adrian Peterson is on this team. They have like 8 wide receivers that are like wide receiver 4s in fantasy, and they're all on the field. So I don't know what we're going to do, but we're going to try and get through this.
I think you summed it up. I don't even think we need to dive into any of it. I think that's a perfect breakdown here of the Redskins. I guess let's just start at the top. And like you said, there's nobody here that is jumping off the map at you, but we got to cover the Redskins. There are names that you should know. QB, no fantasy relevancy across any of them right now. We agreed we could sweep that through?
Yeah, definitely. It's just like I could see it getting hyped up if like Haskins comes in, which I would assume it's the same situation we were talking about with Daniel Jones and Eli Manning. He's going to come in more likely than not like this season at some point. Yeah. It will affect the entire team. Will it give him a spark? Will it be dynamic? Is he actually ready? Shit like that we'll deal with once it's there. But as of now, I can't see it, like much like we were just talking about last podcast. I don't see him starting the season. It's probably going to be Colt McCoy or Case Keenum. But like you said, it's sort of a wash right now for what it is. Total
wash. Running back position, you might as well spin the wheel at running back, and we typically reserve that for tight end. There is guys coming back from the injury. Lots of questions. They say he's doing well in rehab, but what the Redskins are doing indicate that they're probably not as far along as they would like, or at least as healthy as they're leading us to believe. They re-signed Adrian Peterson to a two-year deal. They obviously have Chris Thompson, and they drafted Bryce Love at the top of the 4th round from Stanford. So there are a lot of backs here, a lot of people vying for touches. Darius Geis-Finney coming off the board right now, second pick in the 6th round, number 63 overall.
It's decently high for a guy that just came off ACL surgery. Yeah, and I mean, it happened like last year about this time, maybe a month, give or take a month. But yeah, like goddamn, that's a lot to pay for a guy who's not on a great offense, we would assume. Yeah. So I can't wrap my head around this ADP. It's super risky. You don't need to do this. There are guys going around there in the running back position like Tariq Cohen, huge upside, going a couple picks away. Lamar Miller has a role. James White is, in a crowded backfield, but still has like a PPR value. Tevin Coleman right behind them too.
There's a safety net and a safety element to all those guys that you currently don't have with Geis. And maybe we get more clarity as we get into August, and we've alluded to the fact that it is June. But right now, I agree, there's nothing to support in my mind either that Darius Geis is worth the price of the second pick in the 6th round. There's a ton of risk. There's a ton of risk unless you are playing upside on your running backs and you need 1 or 2 to hit because you went and grabbed tight ends early, or you went wide receiver stack and things fell apart. But in the current state, I don't think it makes sense to spend the second pick in the 6th round on him.
Yeah, and I look at it like this. Like, look, you're going to run out Colt McCoy or Case Keenum to start the season. You're probably not going to start Darius Geis. At least I would bring him along slowly. So once the inevitable happens, you throw in Dwayne Haskins, you throw in Darius Geis, you get a look at what your team is probably going to look like for the next couple of years. Yep. Keep those guys fresh, or keep Geis fresh at least. Like, don't rush that guy back. Let these other guys teach him. Adrian Peterson is a great dude to sit behind. That's fine. So it's kind of like you're looking at that like from a football standpoint. It's going to affect the fantasy football standpoint of it, all of it. So that's how I view it at this time. Super risky taking him that is unacceptable at this point.
I agree. Strike it down. Remove it from the record. We will not allow it. Vinny, Adrian Peterson is presumably the guy in the backfield right now, depending on Geis' health. Do they bring him along slowly? Do they throw him right into the mix, as we just kind of stated? I would assume he is going to be the go-to guy since you have to pick one, regardless of it being a 4-guy committee, over Chris Thompson and Bryce Love.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the thing is, I think they're going to do what they did last year with Adrian Peterson, like just feed him early, often, while he's healthy, while he's ready to go, while he's probably the best he'll be all season, shape-wise. So he's old. He's old now. We have to remember that. And, you got your use out of him last year in some spots. He had a way better year than we thought, man.
Yeah, dude, you take him late, and if you owned him, you got some productive weeks out of him. He started hot, and he gave you production for what you paid was probably a 16th round pick, a 17th round pick. Most places he went undrafted. So he obviously turned in production. Right now, Vinny, he's the first pick in the 11th round. I'm fine if you want to throw a pick at that. You're getting into territory where you want a guy that, even if he gives you that upside for a couple of weeks, that's huge. For a guy that you're going to throw pennies at. And then if it's Geis down the road, that's fine. You can cut AP or leave him on your bench. It doesn't matter. But I think for that price, he's a fine addition to your team.
Yeah, and basically, from our viewpoint, that's the way to do it. Draft the value. Don't, heavily reach on Geis. Obviously, our opinions could change as the offseason goes. We see what the Redskins do. We see what Geis looks like in the offseason. That could change, in an instant. It could be warranted at that point. But if his ADP is already here and he has a good preseason, it's going to go up. So it's tough for me to wrap my head around. It's really rough. I just don't see this offense being great. So it's a tough spot for me. I like Geis. I like his upside. It's just not right now for me.
Yep, I agree. And if he's healthy, like you said, we could easily see Geis in a 4th round pick. You could be talking Derrick Henry, David Montgomery, Phillip Lindsay, Mark Ingram territory. It's only a 2-round jump for a guy that, if he proves is healthy, people already like him in the 6th. We can easily see him climb at a position that there are plenty of question marks. Who you believe in, who sharing touches, who could get overtaken. I don't think there's any, at least for me, there's no love for Chris Thompson. Bryce Love, despite his name, does not deserve it at this point. Again, we'll see what they have for the future, but right now, I think it's AP and Geis. If you're so inclined, you do your own thing, but I think it's a mistake.
Yeah, I could see in a very deep league, Chris Thompson as a flyer. He's probably going to be more involved in the passing game than any of the other guys mentioned. It's a super dart throw, but it's, again, for deeper leagues if you need running back depth.
Yeah, always names to keep in mind. Let's talk about the wide receivers, Vinny. I have 2 names on my list of notes. Really, just the only 2 I have anything here on. And the first one here is Paul Richardson. Guy, 2018, really didn't do much for a $16.5 million guaranteed money he got last year. He's currently going undrafted. I think he's a better player than Josh Doxson. I think he's just someone to monitor. I think maybe he can build that relationship with maybe Haskins or whatever. But I like him better than Doxson, who I think is just an utter disappointment across his career. And I just don't think there's anything to warrant or believe that he can do it.
Yeah, I actually found myself playing Dachshund last year. I think against you, actually. He caught a touchdown, and you were not happy.
Shocker.
But that's pretty much kind of that's all he had. It was like a touchdown, a couple yards. That was it. Paul Richardson, yeah, I agree. I think he's more talented. It's just like I said before, they're just like wide receiver threes playing a 1 and 2 spot right now. They're definitely going to have to go through some growing pains. I'll just throw out another guy, the rookie. They drafted Terry McLaurin, who has a rapport with Dwayne Haskins. So if Dwayne Haskins comes in, both these guys from Ohio State, like that could be something potentially.
100%. Interesting to watch.
Yeah, very hard to say like that'll work. Like, it's been very rare, like bringing guys together from college to the NFL, and it works. But it is something that the Redskins did. Hopefully it could turn into something, because they do not have much depth at running back or anything that's like eye-popping, like we said. So there's a lot of sifting out that has to go through them. And could you pick these guys up on the waiver wire week 2? Yeah, of course. We're going to see what the hell's going to happen, but I don't think anyone should be drafted as of now.
Yeah, totally agree. And Vinny, I think we flip right over to the tight end spot where we tell everyone to spin the wheel. And someone that's part of the wheel is Jordan Reed. He's the 11th pick in the 13th round, currently tight end number 17 coming off the board. Obviously, very, very injury prone. Anyone that's owned him or even just paid attention to the league at all has seen it. But when you look at him statistically, he's only been worse than tight end 13 in just one season, which was last year. He finished tight end 18. He's never played 16 games. Again, he's a guy that's going to get injured. He's going to miss games. But if we see him develop a rapport here, you could do worse at tight end, I guess. It's kind of the whole bottom of the pot.
Yeah, I mean, our philosophy is fuck it. And if Jordan Reed is going undrafted, that is the definition of fuck it. Like, you just do your draft, you do your thing, you get your defensive kicker before him, and then he's just your tight end for a little bit. And you probably pick a guy up on the waiver wire who could possibly finish top 10, and no one's even drafting him right now. That is how tight end works. That is how we view it. But yeah, Jordan Reed, big value. Like you said, it was like his worst year, but ironically, he played 12 games, that is a full season for Jordan Reed. So
yeah.
Kind of surprising, but the Redskins had a lot of injuries. Alex Smith went down. Their offensive line all went down in like one game, it seemed. So they had a lot of bad luck. He didn't have, obviously consistency was hard to keep up with all the injuries and shit. It's he's a value right now.
Yeah, and I mean, as I think about it, Vinny, we talk about if Haskins does get the job or comes in relatively quickly for the team, rookies tend to like their tight ends across the middle as security blankets and that option. If Reed can stay healthy, also a boon for Jordan Reed here. So just again, we're talking pure hypotheticals, but could be a nice little bump for Jordan Reed for, like you said, a guy that is totally being undrafted and off radars everywhere.
Yeah, and I think rightfully so. I think for now, injury prone. I have no problem with him not being drafted, and I also have no problem drafting him with my last pick.
100%. And like you said, our tight end philosophy is fuck it.
Big time, fuck it.
He fits the fuck it mentality.
You're listening to Let's Talk Fantasy Football, home of the brutally honest fantasy advice you've always needed.
All right, Vinny, let's talk Philadelphia Eagles, since that's going to do it for the Washington Redskins. And let's start at the top. QB Carson Wentz no longer has to worry about Nick Foles breathing down his neck as he goes over to the Jacksonville Jaguars. He signs a fat contract, $128 million in total salary, $107 million guaranteed. He'll be an Eagle at least till 2024. And last year, in the 11 weeks he was healthy, he was QB 13. And he obviously kind of had a little bit of a diminished TD rate there, falling off from the years previous. So all up from here, right, for Carson Wentz?
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, he's another one of those guys I'm targeting late. Like, I can hopefully snag him on the later side. He's shown the upside. He's shown his like really deep lulls. Like, I know Don had him and he was having a tough time playing him.
Yep.
Throughout those weeks where it's just like dud, like real, like 6 points, like that shit.
They kill you.
Yeah, a couple weeks of that, and that's tough. But I chalk that up to trying to rush back from several injuries throughout the year. Already banged up in other years, so he's trying to just get out there and do his thing. He's super talented, a very good quarterback. So A guy I think is going to bring a lot to the offense, who added some pieces, got a little more help in the run game as well. And I think Carson Wentz is probably a quarterback I'll look to late if he slides.
Yeah, I mean, the unfortunate part here, Vin, is he's coming off the board right now, 11th pick in the 7th round.
That is fucking high. I thought it was lower.
It's yeah, that's what I'm getting back here on Fantasy Football Calculator. 11th pick in the 7th round. So that kind of sucks. 8 QB off the board. Again, league dependent where he may fall. You know, for us, we know really if a couple guys take him early and everyone else kind of plays chicken until we get down to the wire. So for us, someone's going to slide. It may be him. But the consensus right now out there is a late 7, early 8.
Man, I always forget that every year. Like, our league is so weird with quarterback. Like, I don't even think about ADPs when I think about quarterbacks. I view it as all preference.
Yep.
And then it's absolutely not – actually better with that. It is absolutely not the case, like, across the board. So
yeah, because it doesn't – like we talked about before, it doesn't come down to the Dak Prescotts and the Jimmy G's of the world. It comes down to, oh, shit, it's the 10th round, and I've got Carson Wentz, Drew Brees, Russell Wilson, and Matt Ryan staring me in the face. What do I do? And you're like, well, I didn't prepare for this at all.
Exactly.
So it does become kind of a pure panic spot. So Wentz may fall and be in that spot we're talking about. For most leagues, he's going to be gone.
Yeah, but even viewing that, like if you're in a league where everyone's taking him in like sort of the ADP sort of scale that we have as reference, like that's not a bad spot. He's going later than most of the quarterbacks. Yep. Could possibly slide, like I said. Cam could possibly go over him. Kyler Murray, someone's got a hard on for him in your league. I'm sure he's probably could possibly get drafted over Wentz if he has a good preseason. So there are guys that could leap him and he could slide, but I do like Wentz is like if you're taking him there in your draft and that's how it rolls for you guys. Absolutely.
Yeah. And like you said, Kyler Murray is a great example. We're going to see a lot of this over the coming weeks. From June 6th, Vinny, so 2 weeks ago, he was the 5th pick in the 9th round. He was the 7th pick in the 8th round. So he's up almost a round in 2 weeks. So we're going to continue to see some of these guys shift pretty dramatically. So the opportunities are going to be there. We'll hit that later in the season with people as we get into buy lows, the opportunities, the guys that are just overpriced.
Rise and fall.
Yeah, it's we'll take a look at them all, and that's part of the early push guys on team previews. There's way more value in us looking at the risers and fallers and these other moves as we get closer to draft day than it is doing division by division previews when we get that close. But that's I think that does it on Carson Wentz, Vinny. Let's talk running back. And I think Jordan Howard is fucking dead to me in every way, shape, and form.
How cool was week 1 when he caught 5 passes? That was cool. That was awesome, Schreck. You got to admit it.
It was cool. Everybody has their shining moment, Vinny, but that his light has officially gone out.
That was the top for him. He was.
It's all downhill from here.
Pretty much. He had a weird season. Obviously, the emergence of Tariq Cohen had a lot to do with that. Jordan Howard's a good player, but it's weird because he comes to Philadelphia, who I don't trust for shit when it comes to running backs. I feel like he'll just be Jay Ajayi like 2.0. Like he's a talented dude. They'll feed him randomly. They'll cut him out of game plans randomly, and it won't make sense to you. And I don't know if I exactly want to get wrapped up in that because obviously the potential's there. I think he has a high touchdown upside, more so probably than when he was on the Bears even, just because I think the Eagles will have like a high-powered offense with Wentz, lots of goal line opportunities for him, assuming they use him. They have a ton of dudes there that they love to use, like Corey Clement, Wendell Smallwood. Josh Adams was like getting a piece of the action too towards the end. Yep. They drafted Miles Sanders. It's just crowded as fuck. It's the same case as last year. Like you wanted to like Jay Ajayi. He had a couple games, got hurt, whatever. These guys fill in, they do their jobs. Like it's what we don't look for in fantasy football. We want guys who get the volume, not necessarily contribute to the team like as team players, which is basically how Philly runs their running back core, which is very frustrating, but seems to work for them.
It's the fucking worst. It's the fucking worst.
Selfish, really.
It is selfish. And you know what? Jordan Howard is a perfect fit for that because I want no part of Jordan Howard, and going to this offense just solidifies that. And yes, there is some personal emotion there. We have a bad history. I'm a scorned lover, but here we are. The truth is the truth. Jordan Howard and I are not going to see eye to eye. He does have the goal line potential. Like you said, it's just if they choose to use him that way.
Funny thing is, he's going after Miles Sanders.
Miles Sanders going off 11th pick in the 7th round, and Jordan Howard 5th pick in the 8th round. Wow.
I can't understand that because, like I said, I feel like the goal line stuff for Howard is more valuable than like Sanders, who is. When I was looking at his like draft profile and everything, it was just like, this dude is TJ Yeldon. I'm like, that sounds like a great guy who could fill in for a game, do the change of pace shit, catch a couple passes. But
yeah, TJ Yeldon was really a barn burner for all of us.
At times he was, Schreck.
He was. You're right. He had his moments, but
don't you disrespect TJ Yeldon like that.
TJ Tasty. I'm sorry.
Piece of shit. Watch your mouth. But yeah, it's just like he seems like sort of a fill-in guy, and I don't feel like he's necessarily warranting like being drafted there. It's kind of like how I view guys. Like, why are you doing this so early?
Yeah, it makes no sense. I guess there's some hate for Jordan Howard. The people believing that Sanders has the special talent to be the one out of the 10 guys that they could consider for the running back slot. But again, I think in June it's way too early to call, particularly to call him in whatever that is, the 7th round, 11th pick in the 7th round.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So again, I'm going to own exactly 0 shares of Jordan Howard, and that's a personal bias. You could take that one to the bank, but we're gonna have to wait and see. There's too many moving pieces in this backfield here. Just prepare for running back roulette. We saw it with Garrett Blount. We saw it with, he would have 3 carries for 3 yards and 3 touchdowns. There's no reason that can't be Jordan Howard, but he can also be 0 for 0 for 0 for 3 weeks and then go score 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, I think we can for sure rule out the last year's hype of him being involved in the passing game. There is a 0% chance he's involved in this passing game with the depth that they have. So when you get Jordan Howard, it's going to be pure volume based and pure touchdown, equity based. So you're riding and dying on those two things. They're tough to come by in this league currently, and tough to come by when you have fucking 8 people in the backfield.
Too many mouths to feed, Vinny. Too many mouths to feed. On the wide receiver side, you could argue that there's a lot of opportunity here. Carson Wentz comes back fully healthy. The running back situation is a shit show, but you look at Alshon Jeffrey and they re-signed Deshaun Jackson, who I had spoke about a little bit with Walsh, as I thought he was an opportunity to bounce back and outperform his ADP. And I don't remember where he was when we had that podcast on the draft board, et cetera. But, you've got Nelson Aguilar back here who currently has a quote unquote lower body injury. I don't even know what that means. Just something hurts on his lower body. I think Don's used that designation once or twice. And then you've got JJ. I'm going to pronounce this wrong. So Arcega-Whiteside. Who could be a red zone monster for them if given the opportunity. I think that's future. I think he's more of the long-term replacement for Alshon Jeffrey. I don't think his fantasy time to shine is now. But dynasty leagues and long-term, interesting name, I think, to watch.
Yeah, well said, man. He's like Alshon Jeffrey Jr. pretty much. He's, box out in the end zone. I'm going to catch this fucking ball. You're not type of dude. So high touchdown upside. We've seen some weird shit from the Eagles wide receiver core, as well as like pretty much on par with like how they run the running backs. So obviously your mainstay, Alshon Jeffrey, Deshaun Jackson comes back. You really like him a lot though. Like,
yeah, I mean,
or so it would seem as like this early in the season. I think deep threat wise, I feel like we'll see the same shit we saw kind of with Winston. Like there will be attempts made to him. I think he'll be lucky to leave a game with 6 targets. Yeah. Obviously you can make or break a game on that, but
100%. I think it's one of those where I look at his ADP right now as the 12th pick in the 10th round, right? So he's going right next to Adrian Peterson, who we talked about if he can win you a couple big games. Obviously, the problem is you need to see some kind of consistency to put Deshaun Jackson in your lineup.
Or at the very least, like a good matchup.
Yes, a good matchup. And I think his prime opportunity is exactly that. is with the speed, getting behind defenses. And I think with Alshon, you've got Aguilar going back to the slot, who, when he's in the slot, has played statistically way better than when he's on the perimeter. So I think that helps him. I think that helps the team between Alshon and Deshaun Jackson on the outside. I think Deshaun Jackson may have the opportunity to break it long a little bit more, use that speed and get behind defenses. And I think that's where the opportunity lies. Again, as an 11th round pick, maybe it's the matchup. Maybe he gets hot quick and that can work out for you. But I like the speed. I like seeing Carson Wentz healthy. I think you're going to see far more, I hate to use the word, but consistency out of Alshon Jeffrey. But I think the bigger game, bigger opportunity comes from Deshaun Jackson, particularly at an 11th round draft pick. I'm just looking to see where is Jeffrey coming off the board. 11th pick in the 6th round. So for the price you pay, obviously you have way more consistency here, essentially a 7th round pick than you do an 11th. But when you're on that back end of the 10, 11 rounds, I'm fine with the dart throw there because I think he can get downfield.
All right. I like it, Schreck. Ballsy.
Yeah, and if it burns you, it's only an 11th round pick. So
yeah, it's like you said, very close to AP, and we were saying that's a throwaway too. If you want to drop Deshaun, you can drop Deshaun. Like, it's fine.
But that's where where I said Alshon Jeffrey finished as wide receiver 20 in his first season with the Eagles, finished as wide receiver 26 last year, despite missing 3 full games. I have here he's not necessarily an exciting pick, but there's going to be way more consistency, which we know Don loves. I think than you're going to see out of the other wide receivers.
Yeah, I mean, so his touchdowns were a little fluky. He only had 5. I feel like that can easily go up to 10. Like, no problem. That's just random shit. And he had that in 12 games, only went over 100 yards twice in those 12 games. So it's, he's like, the thing is, he's not exactly like a PPR monster. It's going to be, will he catch the touchdowns or won't he? If he has 10 touchdowns and it's in 12 games, like, we're talking about a whole different kind of light on Alshon Jeffrey. So I view him as a good value. I like where he's going. I think it's like fine. It's right where it needs to be.
Yes.
So I like Alshon a lot. A good stack would be probably Wentz Jeffrey if you can get both in those.
Yeah,
right at their current ADPs. I like their values.
Yeah, that's 6. You can go on that 6-7 swing or 7-8 swing depending on how they fall to you. I think that's really all the breakdown you need on the wide receivers as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, let's go down to tight end where they have no talent and no good options for fantasy football players, which is really a shame. I'm sorry. I seem to have overlooked Zach Ertz.
He's okay.
Yeah, he's average at best. But, Ertz currently coming off the board, 6th pick in the 3rd round. He is tight end number 2 off the board, just behind Travis Kelce, who's coming off at 4th pick in the 2nd round. Which actually I think in comparison to the values is pretty nice. You go almost a round and a half later versus Travis Kelce.
And much like Zeke and Saquon, you can swap these guys out. Like, I can't argue you either way. Like, you're probably both right. Like, it's fine. Ertz, he was just so consistently getting like 10 targets a game. That's fucking like insane. Absolutely insane. Yeah. And then there's really not much that changed with the offense besides bringing in Deshaun, who really doesn't affect like Ertz really. Like, he'll mainly be competing with Aguilar over the middle for those targets, but Ertz is going to get his. He'll be totally fine. He has everything he needs. It's going to be probably equal, if not better, than last year.
110%. Aguilar is not going to damage the value of Zach Ertz coming across the middle. Plenty to go around with a healthy Wentz. And that's pretty much a wrap on the Philadelphia Eagles. A shit show running back core, which you could really say about both teams here in this part of the preview. And a partially wide receiver is a little bit less of a shit show than the Redskins, but nonetheless, not a lot of clarity, we'll say, for fantasy football players here in part 2, right, Ben?
Not yet, no.
Unfortunately not. Maybe we'll get a little bit something else. But, Vin, that leaves us with question time. And that means Ed's question of the podcast. So this one comes in. Ed says, taking their ADP into account, would you rather have Deshaun Jackson or Alshon Jeffrey? And we kind of just had this debate.
We always do this. Always.
We clearly are not fully reading the questions and prepping ahead of time. So Ed gets to hear it twice when he tunes in. But based on the ADP, I'm on Deshaun. Alshon consistency, I just think the upside for me is there with Deshaun Jackson. And if not, throw it away.
On my team, I would definitely rather have Alshon. And I think, going off of what I said before, I think he's going at a fine spot. Somewhere around like 6-7 probably by the time your draft rolls around. And I think that's great value. Huge touchdown upside. The dude is a monster. Healthy Wentz all year. Cross your fingers. That, like I said, those 5 touchdowns could easily turn into 10. No problem. And I would much rather have Alshon.
100%. Shout out to Jeff who asked us about Jordan Reed. We're not going to rehash it because we really did talk about the shit show at tight end. He asks about Jordan Reed. Is he worth the flyer? He's burned me in the past. I'm also a scoring lover. Don't be like me and Jordan Howard. Jordan Reed, based on his current ADP, can be worth it. Give love a shot.
Absolutely. It's always great when like these guys we used to draft like really high and just haven't panned out or like down at the bottom of the barrel. And now we're asking like, is it okay to draft him? It's like, yeah, man. Like now it's definitely okay. You can totally do that.
You justified it back when he was going around 3. There's no reason you can't take him in round 18.
Oh, exactly.
It is funny to see how far we all have come. Our last question of the episode then comes in from Brad. He says, rank these elite wide receivers. We've got Hopkins, AB, Julio, Evans, Thomas, and Odell. A lot of talent there to go all around. And I'm trying to look at how I would actually break them down. I mean, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 names here coming off the board. So you want to go spot by spot here, tit for tat maybe, and go who's your number 1 out of the bunch?
That works.
So I'm gonna take Hopkins as my number 1 overall on the list.
Yeah, you can across the board for that. He is just he is the number 1 wide receiver right now.
I guess number 2, I'm gonna go Julio Jones.
All right, we're already splitting. I'm going Thomas, man. There's not much Drew Brees left, and Thomas is, going to get that extension, hopefully. If he doesn't, he's going to absolutely fucking ball out regardless. So love what Thomas does. Occasionally disappears, like whatever. Julio has done that as well. So yes. I feel like our 2s are kind of on par with each other. But Thomas, I'm definitely feeling, on the younger side as well. So I'm going to lean Thomas here at number 2. I
have no problem with that. For me, it's Thomas on the flip side at 3 for me. So for me, it's a hair split. Where are you going at 3?
3, I'm going to go with Evans, dude. I feel like the Bucs are being completely overlooked right now. Evans ADP shows it. He's like kind of on the
he's the 8th wide receiver off the board, 8th pick in the 2nd round right now.
Yeah, I was going to say like the lower end of the elites that we're ranking right now. I would put Evans like right there. I think, they added Bruce Arians. I feel like Winston is going to just continue. Like, there's nothing that Mike Evans has done to not, like, warrant being drafted higher than a lot of the dudes going ahead of him at this time. Like, not much is, like, coaching change is good in this scenario that I'm, like, viewing. So, let Winston keep doing his thing. Evans keep doing his thing. You'll get over 1,000 yards. Touchdowns will come. I really love Evans.
All right. I think it's number 4 now?
Correct.
Yeah. Number 4, I'm going with OBJ.
Give me Julio here.
Okay. Again, we're kind of splitting hairs, but excited to see him in the Cleveland offense. Again, we'll see how that'll actually all pans out. Lots of excitement on the Cleveland Browns, which Walsh called possible Super Bowl contenders.
That was great.
A bit ripped for my blood, but respect Walsh for the bold call. We all make them from time to time. Following Odell, I'm going to go with Evans.
All right, yeah. Then I'll round it out with Odell.
And
I just have a hard there's a lot of I don't know.
We both clearly agree that AB is the last of the group here.
Yeah, and that's kind of weird for me. It's tough because like AB is so fucking good. It's just he's been so odd and
he's a dick. He's a dick.
He's so good. Like
he is talented.
Easily leap all of these guys. He can go right back to like number 1 form. Derek Carr gets back to form. AB is fine. Like
it's
whatever.
Like crazy.
I'm just, dude. It could happen. It probably will happen. Honestly, this isn't to say like my rankings won't change, or I don't like these guys.
Of course,
more as we get more stuff done this year, but I think Odell and AB at the bottom to make sense just because they've moved, change of scenery. A lot of there's just different things that we have to take into factor that we haven't had to do for the entirety of their careers.
100%.
We've just been plug and play, 1 and 2. Now it's absolutely changed. Kind of put up or shut up for both of them. Not to say that they can't do it. They're obviously the best in the league at what they do. They're up there with the elites.
Yeah.
It's just change of scenery. It's hard to trust with fantasy stuff. You never know what's going to happen. But don't think it's a bad landing spot for either of them. But it's just it's tough to gauge this early.
Yeah, we got to wait and see how it's all actually going to play out. I mean, that's really as basic as we can kind of break it down. But that was a good one there from Brad to kind of look at these pieces a little bit and how even very quickly we can start to not see eye to eye as we go kind of pick for pick on who and again, we're close. We're trading off a couple, 1 or 2 spots, but very quickly people's rankings are going to differ, guys. And that's where you really have to put your own rankings together and find who you like, figure out why, and pick your guys. If there's guys you don't want, figure it out, because come draft day, that matters. We talked about it with the QBs. And how we know our league falls differently. Wentz for most is going to go in that 7 to 8 range right now. You need to know what's going on and who you actually value when the time comes.
Yeah, I think that was a good example too of never think you are going to land this guy at this point just because the ADP is this or research is that. Some dude could just grab him or he goes right after you, expect him to come back. If you like him, fucking take him. Do it. Especially when it's like this and they're all in the elite category. We always say, splitting hairs, but there are just little things that you like or dislike. Go with your gut. Go with your research. Just make sure you get your guy.
Always, guys, go get your guy. And, we're excited to break into these risers and fallers and kind of some more draft strategies as we move on. But before we can even get to that, guys, you're going to be getting the AFC East preview from Don and Walsh. That's dropping to you guys Monday morning. So it'll be a nice ride into work to kick off your week. And I don't think there's any other way I'd like to start my week than to be soothed by the sound of Don and Walsh talking AFC East.
I really can't wait. I really do love their podcast.
They're a hell of a duo, and we can only hope to compete with them for your love and attention, Ben. Yeah. But guys, for Let's Talk Fantasy Football, I am Nick Schreck. He is Vinny Gonzalez. We will catch you on the flip side.
This has been Let's Talk Fantasy Football. Thanks for listening.